Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. All board members are present. This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting the school corporation's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There may be time for public participation as indicated by agenda item or as directed by the president. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further accommodation should contact the superintendent at the school corporation's central office. The meeting will be electronically recorded and will be kept on file in the superintendent's office. A copy of the audio recording will also be available on the NLCS website. If you'll please, all those who are able to rise and uncover for the pledge. And Mrs. Miller, would you lead us? Okay, so first we need review for approval of the minutes and executive session memorandum from October 19th, 2023. So I would entertain a motion for that.
Esteemed President, I make a motion that we approve the minutes and executive session memorandum from October 19th, 2023.
Mr. King makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Parsley seconds. Any discussion on the motion? That was, the word esteemed was not at my request, but I appreciate it. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. So now we move on to persons to address the board relative to the agenda. Do we have any cards? All right, first is Ty Hooten.
Hello.
Hello.
Ty Hooten, 43 Star Lane. Here tonight to speak on the change from trimesters to semesters. Really, today at 2 o'clock or 1:30 when the email went out was really the first time that me as a parent had heard anything about the actual transition occurring or providing any information about it. That's very concerning to me when transparency was one of the biggest topics that was spoke of. I know we attended my first working session today, which was great. I'm not sure why we can't do video or audio of that. You guys typically have 135 views over the last 4 board meetings. So I think I was the only parent here. You could probably increase your viewership by 135 times if you would do an audio or video recording of that and inform a lot more of the community. It's hard enough to get all the board members together at a specific time, let alone trying to get the community that are interested in this together at the same time as well. I know most of the time it doesn't work out with my schedule. So I think that would be a great benefit. I'll summarize what I heard in the working group session. Counseling recommended waiting. NLCC did not want to move at all. Mr. Canada waffled back and forth without a real recommendation, in my opinion. And then we had one other that recommended to go forward with it. I would really like to see you guys wait a year to do this. I think in the past we have sat and rushed things. We've been here. We've done that. Why are we doing it again? To make a decision that, in my opinion, is not going to make that great of impact with 1 year difference. So, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. And next up is Lacey Hawkins.
Lacey Hawkins, 94 Pinewood Drive. Also speaking on behalf of BNL and the NLEA. The decision before you about trimesters is very difficult, and I definitely don't envy you that decision because I'm very sympathetic with Mr. Canada, and would also like to say in his support that this is a tough topic because there are teachers on both sides of this issue, and so for him to be a good leader, I think, is to say he understands both sides of that argument. Same thing for the association. I ran a survey. We did a school-wide survey, but we also did an association survey. And I think you can tell by the association survey that, when I speak as a teacher, both as an on-level world history teacher who has taken my 90 days of teaching a course and cut it down to 60, I cut the fun things because I have to get through content. And so I lost a lot of things that we used to do that I thought were fun and enriching. I just took them out because I was like, I need 30 less days. As a dual credit teacher, I can't do that. So I both hurt my on-level students, and my dual credit students are moving at a pace that is not what was designed for that course. As association president, I can say that there are multiple views on this. So I've given you a list of what we gathered from our survey. You can see that there is a slight lean for semesters over trimesters, but it's like single-digit numbers, and the same thing about when to move. So regardless of what decision you make, you're going to have somebody on the other side saying, like, they wish it was a different way. I tried to pull the bullet points from why each side thought trimesters were better and that they wanted to stay on them, and why the side thought that semesters were better. There were some concerns underneath those boxes that teachers just wanted to see addressed if we switched to semesters, and I don't think those are untenable. I don't think they're unaddressable. It'll just be something that we hope is part of that conversation. And the Career Center specifically has some very specific concerns, which came up in the work session today, mostly about scheduling and how to make those new state requirements fit and how to mesh with the sending schools. I would say I'm absolutely sympathetic with people who do the schedule build, for sure. That will be extra work for them. I think that we've decided that semesters benefit us, and that hard part is how long do we continue to implement a system that we don't think is good. So like I said, I don't envy that decision. I understand both sides of it, so thanks.
Thanks, Lacey. Okay, moving on to Mrs. Muter for personnel agenda.
Yes, I ask the board for approval of the personnel agenda as presented.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the personnel agenda as presented. Mrs. Miller makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. King seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And number 2?
I ask the board for approval of the NLCS teacher contract for the years 2023 through 2025.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Lombard makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Parsley seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
We've seen this as a board. We've seen this contract. Barb and I sat on the subcommittee that attended along with the discussions between the administration and LEA. I believe this is a great first step in taking care of our teachers, which is one of the primary things we set about with, again, I go back to those expectations and what we asked Mr. Gansey to be about in his first year. I know most of you don't know well, I say most of you in the audience are teachers, so you probably do. Most of the public does not, but we are looking at hopefully, from a compensation standpoint, getting our teachers in a much better perspective over the next, or much better position over the next 2 years.
All right, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and we move to number 3.
Approval of pay adjustments for the maintenance department as presented.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve is as presented.
All right, Mr. King makes a motion. Do we have a second?
One second.
Mrs. Miller seconds. Any discussion on this motion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that carries. On to the next one, number 4.
I ask the board for approval for a 50-cent pay increase for hourly support staff.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve. All right, Mrs. Miller makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Lombard seconds. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, so we have 6 ayes and 1 abstention for Mr. Bailey. All right, moving on to number 5.
I ask the board for approval for support staff benefits to be effective the first of the month following 30 days of employment.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. King makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lombrick seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
So, just, I'm sure I understand this correctly, if they're hiring on the first, basically they'll get benefits the first of the next month.
Correct.
If they're hiring the 29th, it's
Yes,
farther out.
yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
I understand it. Unless it's the first of February, then you're still a day short. So don't hire anybody on the first of February.
And this is adjustment to the current policy.
It is. Currently, they have to wait 60 days,
Okay.
but certified staff wait 30, so we're just trying to put them on the same
Okay,
30-day wait.
thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, and number 7.
I ask the board for approval for NLCS employees to donate PTO days to a particular support staff employee.
Okay, and my mistake, that's number 6. I said 7. So I would entertain a motion for approval of item E, number 6.
Make a motion that we approve this PTO donation.
All right, Mr. King makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Parsley seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
Do we have, what's the parameters on this? I mean, the rules, can they, unlimited, is it?
It is.
And then why? What caused this?
We have a support staff member that has a sick child, and they are out of days.
The language in our agenda reads between NLCS employees, and yet you said support staff. We're talking about the broad category of all NLCS employees, though.
Yes.
Yes,
And this is federal. I know in federal leave programs, there is an equivalent to this leave donation, if you will. So
correct.
I assume there's probably something in the state as well. I don't know, but
Is there a limit on the days, or is it unlimited, or?
We did not put a limit on it. There are just some coworkers wanting to donate.
So is this just going to be just for this specific instance, or is this like
It's-
all the time, like if
it's-
something else comes up?
This specific instance, and then if we have something come up in the future, we'll present it again.
Okay.
So once this happens once, you're saying we would have to vote on it again?
Correct.
Okay,
It's just for this one particular.
okay.
someone take a note of that. That this seems like a decent program that
Yeah, maybe
ought
we
to be
want
maybe
to,
looked at as being implemented as
Permanently.
permanent policy.
I agree. We've had it come up in the past where
Okay.
people have become seriously ill and coworkers wanting to donate. It's usually within the building, so
Right.
you probably wouldn't go over too much.
any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, now number 7.
I ask the board for approval to transfer funds into a short-term CD.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Parsley makes a motion, Mr. Bailey seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
Are we bidding for this?
I received 3 bids.
What's short term?
We're looking at 6 months, and then we'll rotate it.
Okay.
We'll continue if we need to.
Okay, any other discussion? You ready to vote? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mr. Yancey.
We're asking approval for Bedford North Lawrence High School to transition from trimester to semester, starting at the 24-25 school year.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjust that from 24-25 to 25-26.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to amend item F number 1 to make the transition at BNL from trimesters to semesters starting in 25-26. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right, Mr. Lombrick seconds it. Any discussion on the motion?
I just feel, honestly, this is not so much more of a statement, I'm not an educator. I rely on the people that are, the ones that I've talked to, the ones that have come to me. Most of them have said, yes, move it. There's been, even within departments, though, it's been back and forth. That we had excellent discussions the other day, presentations, but there were other people in those same departments that came and said, no, I teach that same class, I don't want to do that. And I just feel like everything has been rushed. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's probably for the best and the good. But it not only does it give everybody more time to be able to make all the arrangements, it also gives us a little more time to think outside the box. Are there other ways to do this and make changes? Can we do some research to find some more ideas of what others are doing, not just here locally, but all over the state and other places? So definitely not opposed to it. Just think the timeline's a little tight for me.
Any other discussion?
There's a little bit of a can of worms in that last part of your statement. I did not expect that. The pursuit of other options. So make sure I understand what you're saying there, Tracy, because the motion is to move to semesters,
Yes.
not to back up.
Right.
And look
No,
at-
not to back up, but is there within the semesters, is there other things that we can do? And I don't know, maybe there's not. Maybe there isn't anything that can be done. But within the semesters, can we do some things that maybe are outside the box that we haven't thought of or haven't been done before within the parameters that we're going to do?
And just taking the time to see that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think
Yeah.
he was saying that.
Okay, I want to make sure you were
No,
talking
no.
block full,
schedule.
block
Oh, no.
whatever, something
No.
like that.
I don't know enough about it.
Any
I
other?
came from the mod system, and we've talked about
Yeah.
this before. I love the mod system, so
20 minutes. You go 20 minutes.
20
yeah.
minutes, yeah.
Any other discussion or anybody want to say?
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard and an anguishing decision, if that's even the right word, but it is a tough spot because we've heard from, and to the comment about communication, we did put out a notice for our October 19 work session, and I think only the teachers and the staff showed up. We live in a news desert, if you will, that if it's not picked up by WBIW, who's understaffed, or the Lawrence County Zephyr or something like that, we are not getting very good at not batting very well in terms of getting our message out, and that's noted. But we did try to then summarize that meeting where we did have those initial discussions with Mr. Cannon and his team and try to summarize so that the public was aware. So this is not something that we came to only tonight, even though I can certainly understand the perception that it's being discussed here for the first time. It is not. I too rely heavily on the recommendations of Mr. Canada, who ultimately has to weigh the balance of his staff and their work that they'll have to do if it were pushed to 24-25. And then, Mr. Yancey, who ultimately we set this requirement upon the superintendent because there was essentially no checks or balances. There was no process check built into this transition to trimesters that said, hey, let's evaluate this after a period. 4 years now, the first full class, that is the seniors this year have had 4 years of trimesters. So we are, as Ms. Redmond alluded to, we are short of data that shows us obvious trends, although it is noted that our graduation rate is declining, could be for multiple reasons, but we see state averages, we see local school averages, and we see like school averages actually bouncing back from a 21 low in 22 and on the upward trend. The data for 23 we only know really for ourselves, and it's not finalized yet, but that trend has continued lower to a projected about 83%, not finalized until January. We need to be tracking the other way. We are tracking in the wrong direction as far as trends, and it seems like the majority of Indiana schools have been able to bounce back from the harsh, realities of COVID. So I do think there's action required. Even some of what Lacey has showed us here is still turning over in my mind as to how we treat this, because there is significant change, and then the principles that I've talked about before, change management. How do we make sure we do this appropriately? Because you can be aggressive and still implement change appropriately. At the same time, it does increase the odds for mistakes or hurried up at the end. And so I'm still very much teetering on where we need to go with this. It is a very difficult decision, probably one of the hardest we've seen as a board in my short time here.
Yeah, and I would just follow that up to Mr. Hooten's comment about the people not knowing. That's why we sent out the email, was because I was getting people saying, what are you talking about? We didn't know this was happening. That certainly, I mean, we meet all the legal requirements for posting these things through WBIW on the school's website, but we can certainly use social media more to do that, because I think it would be, and usually when we have work sessions, people don't come. That's not because we don't want them here, and I think there would be no reason that we could broadcast it, right, Greg? Yeah, so we can do that. I think that's a good point. But the reason that, and I would also say what we sent out today, I had talked to Greg about, is there a way that we can have for the public things that, because not everybody can come to work sessions, not everybody has the time to sit down and watch a work session because they can be long. Can we have some sort of database, a Google Drive, where the public can look at what we have seen, or the recording of it if they want to? So there's sort of a warehouse of the materials. I mean, obviously we can't put in things like personnel issues, but anything that's done in the public, we can put in that sort of depository, and then the public can have access to it. So I think we can do a better job of that, and that's why that email communication came out, so that people would be aware of how we got to this point. I recognize that it can be improved. So that's my first statement. Secondly, I want to commend the board. This is a very, very difficult decision, and every single person up here is taking this. There's not been a single person who said, oh, well, I don't want to do it. Everybody has considered both sides, and it's very difficult. So I would just commend our board for reaching out to teachers, talking to counselors, talking to parents, or hearing from the kids hearing from our own kids, or hearing from kids in the survey. So I want to be clear that this board has really, really worked through what's best for students. It is a difficult decision. I think at least we do have consensus on, I don't want to speak for everyone, but that trimesters are the way to go. I'm sorry, semesters. I strike that, reverse it. Semesters are the way to go, but it's a matter of timing. And everybody who is trying to make this very difficult decision is trying to do what's best. And that's why I did put Mr. Canada on the spot and asked him what's best for kids. Because at the end of the day, our staff, we can't do anything for kids without our staff. And if our staff are overworked, that's and put in what I said in the work session is we don't want to put any staff member in an impossible situation. That would be a non-starter. If he told me it's not possible that they can do this with fidelity and without walking out the door, then that would be a non-starter. But I would just like to reiterate that everyone here is making a decision, I think, that is very difficult and sort of murky and based on what's best for kids. So any other comments? And then I will repeat the motion so we all remember what we're actually voting on.
Yeah, I would like to add that I agree it's a very difficult decision. And through this process, communicating with Mr. Cannon and his staff and then others in the community and staff, get appreciation for the dedication their staff has and the professionalism that they have and just the talent that they have in caring about our kids and educating the students. And I think that's been as impressive as anything. I think just communicating and learning and getting more information on the education process and all that. But I think that the underlying driver here should be what's best for the student. And I think implementing semesters as soon as possible is the absolute best thing for the students. And if we don't do it this upcoming year, then we'll have close to 1,300 students that won't get the best education that they need moving forward. And I think that really needs to be the driving factor.
Anybody else?
I do have a question on the data that Lacey gave us. Was this data already included, this 39 teacher, NLEA teacher survey. Go ahead, answer from there if you want.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Were these charts included in some of the data you had previously provided to the board?
No.
So this is new data?
Yes. So, we had surveyed the entire staff, and I was being asked to speak from my own experience, but then trying to speak for teachers, I really needed to hit them with those specific questions to accurately represent them. So I sent that survey out after October 19th. So,
And the reason this number is different than our other numbers, because not every
This
teacher
is-
is in L.
That's correct. This was only sent to the
LEA.
membership at the high school and the Career Center.
Okay.
So both are, included. And it was pretty strong for semesters at the high school and pretty strong for,
Kind of what
trimesters
we
at
had
Career
talked about on October 19th.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, yeah.
So the survey reflected what I expected, but
Mhm.
those are the actual numbers. So.
But to be clear, and for the audience that doesn't see this, the nearly even split of teachers asked about the timing, 25-26 has a slight edge in 38.5%, 24-25, which would be next school year, 35.9. So just that's probably a one-person swing.
It is exactly a one-person swing.
Mhm.
And then roughly a quarter, 25.6, ambivalent on it. So it is very close at even in LEA level.
What I tended to see was teachers saying that they knew this was best for students and wanted to do it right away, and then teachers saying that they were unsure what especially the teachers who prefer trimesters, unsure that the data supported that semesters were better for students, and then concerns about the transition. So, but a number of those just felt that trimesters were better in general. So when it came to timing.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, so I will repeat the motion. The motion on the floor is to amend the motion, item F number 1, to amend that from BNL High School transitioning from trimesters to semesters starting in 2024 to 2025 to transitioning from trimesters to semesters during the 2025 year, so delaying. So that's what you're voting on right now is the amendment.
To approve the amendment or to accept the?
To approve the amendment, and then we would vote.
And then vote on the.
Right.
Right, okay.
Tracy's motion is to amend the agenda.
Right, and we do have a
Second.
Jeff
So this
seconded,
would just amend the agenda, and then if it gets amended, then we would vote yea or nay on.
but you would no
the
longer
amendment.
be voting on the
No,
2024
you'd be
start.
just be voting on
Right.
the amendment, okay.
Okay, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, well, let's do a roll call vote for, because I don't know who said what. So who were our ayes? Okay, and who were our nays? Okay, so the amendment fails. So now we will vote on the original, I will entertain a motion for the original item, which is approval for BNL High School to transition from trimesters to semesters starting in 2024-2025. I would entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion that we approve this recommendation from Mr. Yancey to do the transition in 2024-2025 school year.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mrs. Collier seconds. Any discussion on this motion?
Again, difficult. Ultimately, Mr. Yancey owns this expectation. Ultimately, Mr. Canada and his staff, along with the Career Center, have to execute this plan. It is a steeper curve than it is a year later, but I think that this is for the best of the students, and we are going to have to work as a board to make sure you're
Yeah.
compensated in that, and that we staff up as needed, but that we turn that trend as quickly as we can. I have preached before on agility and decision making based on data. I believe the data presses us to act, even if it's a slight edge one way or the other, and that's why I pushed against delaying a year.
Any other discussion before we vote? Okay, so again, this motion is the motion to approve BNL High School to transition from trimesters to semesters starting in 2024 to 2025. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Opposed. Okay. So we have 6 ayes and 1 nay. Correct? All right, so that carries. And I just want to thank the board for all the work and the thought that was put into this. I can't express enough that how seriously everyone took this. So thank you. And we will move on to number 2.
We're asking approval of the board for Bedford Middle School outdoor digital sign advertising contract agreement. The sign was purchased. What we've done with that sign is add 5 slides for the middle school, 5 slides for the corporation, and then we're asking to this contract for 5 slides for advertisement. This will go to the middle school that they can use. This is similar to what we do in athletics already. We've never come to the board in athletics and asked for approval to put signs up on a baseball field or a football field that you see at Bedford Middle School. But this is new, and I said we would be out front with the board what we're doing. It will generate a nice revenue for the middle school that really could use this resource. And as you can see on the sign, the corporation has already put some advertisement out there. We're hiring not only custodians but support staff. So we're going to continue to use that sign for the corporation also. But I wanted to.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Move to approve.
All right, Mr. Parsley makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lumbrick seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
So one of the things that I'm wondering about, and I understand that what it is and what the money's for, but would it be possible to work in for our nonprofits that are having events to be able to do something on a very short term, whether it be the Pancake Festival or the Riff Fish Fry, without having to pay for it, just doing it as a service, maybe for the 2 weeks before or something like that. But
Yes, we can do that because we can use it on the North Lawrence side, the 5 we have. So,
I have a question.
okay.
So you said our corporation would have 5 slides, and then Bedford Middle School would have 5 slides. And then
Well, we can always change that. That ratio came by just how much time you have when you pause there. I
Okay.
hope you get a red light.
well, but it,
I drive by there.
but it says here you're selling the advertisers. You get one slide, but they be no more than 10. But if we're using 10 and they add them, then
It should be 15 that's
Okay,
going to
should
be
be
on
15
there
and not 10,
as a
so-
max. Right now, we don't even have that. So
okay. So it should say no more than 10, no more than 15.
15 slides.
Okay. And both those.
And I'll have that changed.
Okay.
I have a question about, are we going to limit this to, like, we don't want to have political
you can't.
signs? Okay, I just want to make sure everybody knows that we wouldn't have,
Well, and you have to also watch out what you.
right,
I
and that
get
we
in
don't want to have
detail, but I've been-
vaping or.
We've had
or-
issues by
Right,
calendars that you have an outside company would do a calendar for like a baseball team, and then they solicit by phone to areas we don't have alcohol, we don't have other things that can be on school slides.
right, so there's a policy for ensuring that the content is appropriate.
Just like we
Okay.
we do at the high school on the fields. They
Right.
can't be.
Okay, I figured so, I just
So,
wanted to say that out loud.
Has language in
Has language, okay,
to address that.
Sole discretion
okay. Any other discussion?
Do any of the other schools have access to put
Well, they would have.
info on these
They would
signs?
use the corporation slides. So yes.
Do you mean outside of NLCS?
No.
Okay,
Like,
Shaw's
okay.
like Shawswick
Oh, yes.
Carnival.
I
or
see what you're
Scotland's
saying.
Fall Fest.
I see
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
We would use our slides
Yep.
because we want to get that. That's a great location. The other place we're looking at is, of course, on the highway by Needmore, because that's another great location to advertise and get our message out down the road.
So who would, if a grade school wanted to get out their message about a carnival or something, would they just contact BMS for
The-
that, or? they
The
contact Central?
principal would contact David, and then David has access to our slides, and he would change it.
Okay, Any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mr. Yancey. And now, Mr. Housel.
Good evening. We would request approval for the amount of $201,134 to Empower Learning for the purchase of 38 Promethean boards.
Okay, I would entertain a motion. All right, Mr. Lambert makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Collier seconds. Any discussion on the motion? I would just say we had tabled this, or not tabled it, but we thought about having it on a prior agenda, and then we took it off because some teachers were having difficulty, but I believe all of that has been addressed so that the teachers who were having the difficulty with the Promethean boards, whatever the issue was, has been solved, or there was
We had a
additional training?
representative from
Okay.
Empower on site last
come in and-
Wednesday. I
Awesome.
believe we've worked through the vast majority of issues. The only issue I'm aware of that has not been resolved yet is there are a few document cameras that are not working with the boards, and so we're looking at purchasing more document cameras to make
Okay.
those more
It's
workable. So
in process, and I think they have another meeting scheduled the 16th of November. So
Yeah, but I believe the teachers were the ones that I spoke to were very happy after the representative came, and they felt a lot more comfortable with
yes,
the Promethean boards. Okay.
yes.
The reason why we have two quotes on there, 37, 38, we just.
I believe that's because we get free shipping through December 31st.
So we could add in.
So because of the free shipping, we could add another board. So they gave us two quotes, one for the 37 boards and one for 38. So we get
Okay.
an additional board.
All right, so we're done to 38.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, any other discussion?
And this is, of the percentage of boards we need, this is how many? Is this 50%? Is this 75%? Is this all of them? Say that.
50%.
Yeah. Maybe a third, maybe 30%.
This is what, there was no budget line how this was put together before I came here. So they did a trial run. Now this is the money we can take out of what we have because we're getting at the end of the budget. So then after we get ready to write the next budget, we're going to have to put it into technology or we'll have to bond for it. Because I do believe the third round needs to finish this. Usually you do it on the second round, but because of the way it was done prior, this is the amount of money we can afford right now, so. No, this is the amount of money we can budget right now to spend. We can afford it. So. Oh, sorry, I didn't hit my button.
Oh, that's okay. Any additional discussion?
I have one more question. This is a non-technical question, but some of the data you provided, one of the issues that was brought up was the Google two-step. And just in my younger years, I'm familiar with the Texas two-step. But I noticed, pretty good actually. All right, so I noticed that a few people had issues with the Google two-step. Could you kind of give me within like 45 words, what's a Google two-step?
So we have two-step verification. So when you sign into a device,
Oh, so it's authentication?
yes, you get a message on your phone that you have to verify that you're
Hopefully
seeking
you
that.
have
So
access.
that issue has been resolved, and Empower has provided a YouTube video for all the staff so that they can figure out how to eliminate the two-step verification every time.
Okay, so
So-
they can't eliminate it. They don't have to do it every time.
They don't have to do it every
Okay.
time. Yeah. They were having to do it multiple times a day, and
Yeah,
so
that'd
that's.
be-
Yeah, usually the one that I'm familiar with, the Duo, is you can set it for like 90 days, so you don't have to do it again. I don't know what the
We do it daily,
right,
anytime you log in.
but then you don't have to do it.
Correct,
all day long.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Housel.
you.
Mrs. Hudson.
Good evening. I am here to ask for the approval for the BNL High School Assistant Principal, Mr. Stephen McNabb, to attend the Positive School Discipline Institute Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana, November 17th through the 18th.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve. All right, Mr. Key makes a motion. Do we have a second? Mrs. Miller seconds. Any discussion or questions on this motion? Go ahead.
Is this because it's something he did, or is it help the kids?
Actually,
He's not in any trouble, is he?
He actually volunteered to go. He's very, very thrilled to go. So,
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Hudson. Do we have any additional persons to address the board not relative to the agenda?
I just have a few things I'd like to say on thank you to some groups. North Orange Community, our school teachers association. I want to thank, of course, the president, Ms. Hawkins, and the vice president, Mr. Phelps. A lot of meetings went into doing this contract and also helping me interpret the contract when I came here. I think we have a great working relationship, and I sure appreciate all that you do. I really do. Also, I want to thank our two board members that spent a lot of time with this discussion on the contract, and the entire board for showing your appreciation to our teachers, especially in compensating them. I really appreciate it. And also, I want to thank the principal, the high school, and the staff in getting the data to us and the information. This was started later because, as you know, all the staff left us at the high school, and we had to take 5 weeks to find our new principal. And there were some changes. I want to tell the high school staff that I've been very proud this 9 weeks of how the high school has transitioned through this new principal and assistant principals. I also want to thank the counseling department that takes the time out when I go over there to ask very tough questions. And the leadership there is much appreciated, and I appreciate it very much. And I also want to thank the board for looking at this issue and how you handled it. It was a pleasure working with you through this. And I think it's the best for the students. Again, thanks for all that you do.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to address the board? You may. You don't have to say your address again.
Awesome. I just wanted to kind of readdress the advertising stuff for the working sessions. I saw the working session on WBIW for the 19th. Had no topic, no agenda, no nothing. It just said, hey, working group session October 19th at this time. So obviously people aren't going to come to every working group session, but they may come to something that they are interested in, such as an important decision, such as the transition. So that is one suggestion that I would make, that if you're going to put stuff out there, tell people what you're talking about. What are you working on? The other thing that I would suggest was I actually went on board docs today just to see if there was anything on there about what you guys were talking about. There's nothing on there about agendas. There's nothing on there about for the working session. There was nothing on there about any discussion that you guys had during that. No minutes for that. So I'm not sure how you expect parents and community members at the moment to stay up on something. There was no written communication with it. There was no video or that you could go watch there. So unless you were here, which no one was, then there's no way for anybody within the community or a parent to be able to know what you guys are discussing and what your guys' thought process is for this. So really recommend that you guys look into that in a timely manner and try to correct that so that all the community can stay involved and understand what you guys are working on. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. And I think those are things that we agree on. You know, if we can do the video and audio, I think that would solve a lot of issues. And there's no, according to Greg, there's no reason that we can't do that. And so what I mentioned earlier about having a place where there are documents where people can see, here's what the board saw, if it's in a public work session, in addition to advertising it better. So thank you for that input. Anyone else?
In our packet, we have a couple of school calendars, proposed school calendars, 24, 25, and then 25, 26. I'm guessing these are going to be voted on sometime?
2 weeks.
Next board meeting,
Okay.
yes.
Is there anywhere that these are posted that the public and parents and everybody
Yeah.
can see?
If you want them posted, we can.
Yeah, I think that would
So
be
we can get some input
Mm-hmm.
from, I mean, they're not significant changes from what we do now. I think the biggest is Thanksgiving's going back to 3 days. The proposals.
and starting later in
Goes
August.
back to 3 days, yeah, instead of the full week. And then first, student day would be August 14th, which is, what was it, August like 1st this year? or something.
Yeah.
So that's a huge difference there.
We looked at that because of the fair. We had quite a few kids and faculty that was gone the first part of August, so we
Right.
thought that might help.
Okay.
Yeah, I think posting it somewhere where
And
families
and
can see
then
it.
graduation, some people wanted to go back towards the holiday on that Friday. It does make it tight, as you can see. And also, we have 3 built-in snow days. So if you do have bad weather,
I see.
you could have school in the first week of June, but your graduates will not be there because they graduate on the 30th. And I've been in schools that's happened before, so
Student day is graduation.
why we would like to get this out in a 2-year cycle is to give our parents the opportunity to see when school starts, when it ends, to prepare for vacations. We're going to start a campaign here after Thanksgiving, the first of the year, talking to our parents about the importance of attending school. The state of Indiana is changing how they calculate attendance. So really, under the new guidelines, you have 10 days. That's 94% attendance rate, what the state is mandating. So we're going to meet with powers to be, that's the prosecutor and our judges, taking a look at attendance laws, and we're going to look at how we're going to adopt the handbook for all 3 of our school systems, that's elementary, middle school, and high school, to deal with how we're changing the attendance. When I go to schools for talk sessions, one of the complaints the teachers ask, and I will direct this to the public, how do we teach our children if they're not at school? It is imperative that our children are at school. And I believe that as a parent of 2 sons, they were always in school. So I think it is a good practice that we start a campaign here at North Lawrence to show that we believe being in school is important. And we're going to come up with some ideas of how we can get that message out and how actually the state of Indiana has changed how they calculate attendance. So, and this is one I've been in contact with Dr. Comer. I believe he needs to know what we're doing because he's taking up his attendance or his calendar in the next few months. And that I told him if North Lawrence gets their calendar out soon, hopefully the other schools that come into the Career Center will see what North Lawrence is doing, that we're trying to do a 2-year plan. So that means next year at this time, I will propose the next school years. We will always be on a 2-year plan for our, now you know you have the right as a board to amend the calendar anytime. So if there's things you would want to amend after you approve it, you can do that, so. And it has been done in other districts, so,
And if anybody doesn't know, Dr. Comer is a superintendent in Mitchell.
oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yep.
So I think getting it publicly posted or available to stakeholders would be a great idea.
Okay. So we'll put it on the website in the
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, and I'll ask David if we could share that on social media too, and perhaps via email to hit as many people as we can. Okay, any
Thank you.
other business? Thank you. So our coming meetings, that is on the 16th of November is our next board meeting. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn. Mr. King makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Mr. Parsley seconds. All those in favor, or any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.